Hiya, Luckies! What? Oh, that? Funny story about that, actually. Apparently the girl who normally does this show is sick at home with the swine flu, so they asked me to take her place while she's away. That, and I sort of blackmailed the producers of the show into letting me on.
Such a bad boy.
Well, anyway, as you can tell, today we are going to take a look at Lucky Star. Lucky Star started out as a 4-panel comic strip drawn by Kagami Yoshimizu that was published in Kadokawa Shoten's Comtique magazine. Much like American newspaper comics, the story has very little plot and mostly focuses on the daily lives of the show's characters. The show is basically about the lives of 4 Japanese high school girls. Does the plot sound familiar? It should, since this show has a lot in common with one of my earlier reviews, Azumanga Daioh. The question is, how does this show compare to Azumanga Daioh? There's only one way to find out. The story starts with our main heroine, Konata Izumi, in PE class running the track. When asked about joining the track team, she declines, saying that it will cut into her time in the afternoon watching anime. So we cut to Konata at lunch eating a chocolate cornet. Oh god, here we go.
Hey, Tsukasa, which end of a chocolate cornet do you eat first?
Huh? I think I started the head.
Really? So which side of this thing's the head anyway, the fat part or the skinny?
I always thought that this end of it, the thin one, was the head.
Oh, see, I always thought the fatter end was the head.
No, judging by the fact that the chocolate sauce is exposed on the fatter end, that is so obviously the butt.
So why do you think the thinner end's the head?
Doesn't it look like a seashell? Why do you think it's the fatter end?
I always thought it looked more like a caterpillar.
That's interesting. Can we please move on now?
Cream puffs, how do you eat them?
Huh? How do I eat a cream puff? That's easy. I split it in half horizontally, then I take the top half and dip it into the cream in the bottom part. Then, after most of the cream is gone, I start eating the bottom. I find that if I eat it that way, it keeps the cream from spurting out, and I can have equal amounts of cream and pastry in each bite.
Huh. Oh, here's another one. How do you eat curried rice? Do you mix the curry with the rice?
No, but I do try to have equal amounts of curry and rice left over for my last bite. I like mixing it up. How do you eat it?
It all depends on the curry. If I pour some sauce on it or drop a raw egg on top, then I mix it up.
You put sauce on curry?
Oh yeah, it's tasty.
Do you put sauce on fried eggs too?
Nope, I put soy sauce on fried eggs.
Oh, see, when I use that, I use mayonnaise. Mayonnaise on fried eggs, but not on hard-boiled eggs. You know, mayonnaise is good with pretty much every egg dish.
Oh my god, we're 7 minutes in and they're still sitting there talking about different ways to eat food? I really do not care which end is the ass end of a chocolate cornet. Let's just dip this in the bud and get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
So I kid you not, after about 5 to 6 minutes of talking about food, we finally move on to...
What's with all the kidnappings lately? I mean, these guys imprison girls and force them to call them master and stuff. It's sick.
Boy, this conversation just took a rather disturbing new turn. So after about a half an episode talking about how to eat food and Ted Bundy here, maybe we will finally see the story start moving, or just talk about the difference between a cold and a flu. Coincidentally, Kagami has come down with a cold and is sick in bed. Konata comes to visit, but just so she can copy her homework. So in another skit, Konata talks about playing some online game, baseball games interrupting anime schedules, and Oh my god, this again?!
Which end of a chuckle cornet is the head? Is it the fat end or the skinny end?
Excuse me for a second. And now comes what is probably my favorite moment of the show. At the end of every episode, we get the Lucky Channel segment, hosted by Minoru Shiraishi and Akira Kogami. I find these to be a phenomenal breath of fresh air after 20 minutes of pointless girl talk. Basically, they talk about the show, read fan mail, or discuss the show's main characters with some rather hilarious results. And oh boy, if the remaining 23 episodes are anything like this, we are in serious trouble. I know it sounds like I freaking hate this show, which I don't, but man, what a terrible way to start the show off. I'm not going to lie, Lucky Star... I'm not going to lie, Lucky Star is mostly a skit-based comedy. On the other hand, the show is also very character-driven. Would you like to meet them? Konata Izumi is a friendly and outgoing yet ditzy girl with a lot of eccentric energy to spare. Although she's a very smart girl, she hates studying and would rather spend most of her time watching anime and playing video games. No doubt the absolute epitome of the word otaku. In order to fund her interest, she works a part-time job at a maid cafe in Akihabara. So, what exactly is a maid cafe, you ask? Don't ask. Her energetic and carefree attitude often gets her at odds with her friends, especially Kagami. What I find interesting about her is that she is voiced by both Aya Hirano and Wendy Lee, who both voiced the Japanese and English dubs for Haruhi from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And the irony meter has just gone through the roof. So not surprisingly, Konata is an avid follower of Haruhi Suzumiya. Kagami Hiragi is the older of the Hiragi twins. She is a very serious and determined person who has little to no tolerance for things she finds childish or ridiculous, and which Konata likes to take advantage of in order to irritate her. Her short temper often makes her scary, according to Konata, which is why she apparently doesn't have a boyfriend. She is usually concerned about her weight, counting every kilogram she gains or loses, especially since Kagami likes to eat sweet food and she is often seen eating snacks at night. Despite her concern about her weight, she has no willpower in controlling her eating habit. No doubt that she probably takes therapy sessions with Koyomi Mizuhara. Actually, putting them together would make a very interesting Jenny Craig commercial. She also has a cute little twin sister named Tsukasa. Tsukasa is a short and somewhat klutzy girl who is also incredibly shy. She is also a very heavy sleeper and is very hard to wake up. As such, she usually gets up in the afternoon on days with no school. kind of reminds me of myself at times.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Wait a minute. It's 7:30 in the afternoon? How long have I been asleep?
She and her sister Kagami work as shrine maidens at the Washinomiya Shrine, an actual Shinto shrine located in Saitama, Japan. Finally, there is Miyuki Takara. She is a well-mannered young lady who belongs to a rather rich family. She is also a rather pretty girl despite being clumsy, and is also kind of a walking dictionary, able to explain things by getting into long explanations for the simplest of things. Her sweet nature often gets teased about by Konata, as well as for her breast size.
Halfway through, a new group of characters are introduced to the show. But for the sake of time, I just wanted to discuss mainly about the main 4 characters of the show. So, let's move on, shall we?
When I got into this anime, I was expecting something along the lines of Azumanga Daioh, and for the most part there are many similarities between the two shows. Unfortunately for Lucky Star, there is very little to no ongoing plot or structure to this show. Azumanga Daioh, for instance, may seem random or have very little in terms of a plot episode-wise, but overall focuses on the daily lives of the characters as they grow and mature through their years in high school.
However, in Lucky Star, you will find none of that.
Lucky Star consists almost entirely of skit-based humor, seemingly endless conversations and character dialogue consistently throughout the show's run, each with a specific theme for every episode.
It's kind of like SNL, except with the same 4 characters every episode.
One other problem is that the show gets off on a really bad start. Once again, does a 10-minute conversation about food ring a bell? I guess you can say that the show really doesn't get funny until about episode 4 or so. To be fair, Lucky Star is very funny and most definitely has its charm. However, this is not a show that I would recommend to people who are new to anime. For instance, much of Lucky Star's humor consists of in-jokes or references to other anime or otaku culture in general. So for someone who is unfamiliar to the anime this show is satirizing, the show will prove to be confusing more often than funny. So as you would expect, many other well-known characters from other anime make appearances from time to time, if you know where to look.
What's the matter? Do I have cake on my face or something?
I think I've just found another charming quality about Kagami is all.
Stop talking like him, okay?
No doubt, the Japanese answer to Family Guy, except a lot less crude.
Okay.
Mayor West hasn't slept at home for 3 nights.
Kermit the Frog?
Somebody talked! No one is safe! I'm getting out of here! Yay!
One thing that I find kind of strange is that when other anime shows and characters from those shows are mentioned by name, their names are almost always bleeped or cut out.
Why? I guess the copyright gods were a little bit too stingy when they were making this show.
But the funniest scenes in the show, in my opinion, come from the Lucky Channel segments at the end of each episode. Those tend to be hilarious, and I usually am looking forward to what Akira Kogami and Minoru Shiraishi rant about next. Thus, I will give Story a 3 out of 5. The soundtrack really isn't much either. Much like the animation, the soundtrack is bright and fluffy. Although the music isn't bad, unfortunately it gets kind of dull hearing the same music track over and over again. I kind of wish there was a little more variety in the sound department for a 26 episode anime series. Another thing to note is the ending theme of the show is just the main girls behind the door of a karaoke box singing various songs from different anime. However, from episode 13 onwards, each ending theme is performed by Minoru Shiraishi singing and acting in live action. However, despite this and a really catchy opening theme, I will have to give soundtrack 3 stars as well. The animation is good for the most part, but it does kind of vary in quality at times. Although, the character designs are phenomenally cute and adorable, specifically those of Tsukasa and Miyuki. The backgrounds and surroundings have a bright and colorful watercolor feel to it, and is pretty much the same standard as those of other works such as Haruhi Suzumiya, and its aesthetics flow very nicely. Thus, I am willing to give animation 4 stars. The characters aren't bad by comedy standards, and most of the characters have a lovable charm to them. Sadly, they get very little, if any, character development throughout the course of the show. Maybe it's because of the show's episodic nature, but come on! Adding a little more depth to these characters and show how they mature over 26 episodes. The characters by no means are unlikable characters. It all comes down to what your character preferences are. From the shy Tsukasa to the outgoing and somewhat nerdy Konata. Take your pick. Another source of humor in this show consists of the characters and their interactions with each other. So if you don't quite understand the constant anime and video game references, you're still guaranteed a few laughs along the way, but not as much. Even though I find the main characters lovable, the main problem I find with the characters in this show is that some of the minor characters I find quite irritating. Specifically Meito Anizawa and his crew that work at the anime and manga store Konata frequently shops at.
I mean, these guys aren't just annoying. They're blow your brains out annoying.
Also, many of the new characters that are introduced halfway into the show are kind of flat at times, as well as some of them being spitting images of the personalities of the main 4 girls in the show.
After all, you added them into the show to give the main characters a larger variety of personalities to interact with, right?
But the characters are lovable, and that's all that counts. Even so, I will give characters 3 stars. It's a shame because I really wanted to compare this anime to Azumanga Daioh, but unfortunately it doesn't quite make the cut. This show has its charm, it's funny and cute, but it also has its share of problems, ranging from minimal character development and a lack of a solid plot, and the fact that I wouldn't recommend this show to people new to anime due to the countless anime references that may confuse them. And even though this anime was a lot of fun to watch, it still feels a tad bit overhyped. That is why I give Lucky Star 3 points for interest and an overall rating of 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll admit it does take some getting used to. I almost dropped this show around episode 3 myself. However, stick in there because it does get better over time. Oh, we're out of time. I guess I've talked enough about the cute and fluffy side of being an otaku. Tune in next time, and we'll talk all about the darker side of being an otaku. Until then, bye-me!